Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another tutorial. In today's video I'll be showing you guys how to cut and sew this beautiful trendy wrap dress with ruffles and trumpet sleeves. If this sounds good to you and is something you're interested in, then please keep watching. And if you're coming across my page for the very first time, you're welcome. Please don't forget to click on the subscribe button before you leave. And to my returning subscribers, thank you so very much guys for coming back. I really appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's get right into this video. So first and first, we're going to be using our full body pattern to cut on the fabric. So I have my pattern paper here with me, as you can see. Now the length that I'm working with here originally is about 40 inches, 7 inches for the ruffles and 33 inches for the gown. That's from the shoulder to the length of this is 33 inches. I'm going to be adding 7 inches for ruffles to make it 40 inches. I hope you understand. So from the shoulder I came down 11 inches for the bust point. I came down 17 inches for the waistline. Now from the waistline I'm going to be coming down 10 inches for my hip line, or wherever your hip line is for you. 10 inches is not a constant, so I'm just going to use marker to rule this line, which will serve as my hip line, like so. So for the shoulder I used 8 inches, which is 16 divided by 2 for the shoulder. Then from there I came down 1 inch for the shoulder slope. Now to draw my armhole, I came up by 2 inches from the bust point to serve as my chest line, and on the chest line was where I placed my bust circumference divided by 4 before I drew my armhole curve. So for the neck I'm going to be going with 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches for the width and depth of the neck for the front, while for the back I came down 2 inches for the depth of the back, but I still maintained it 3.5 inches for the width. So I'm going to be using this single pattern paper to cut both front and back. So now I spread the pattern open so we can manipulate this to form our wrap dress. So on the waistline I'm going to be coming on 6 inches for the overlap. Now you can do 6.5 or 7 inches if you want, but I came out by 6 inches for the overlap. Now on that same waistline I'm going to be going up by 1.5 inches, and then I'll be coming down half an inch on the waistline on that 6 inches mark, and I'll be connecting these 2 points together to form the belt opening. So basically I'm using 2 inches in width for the belt opening for this dress. Now for the front neck depth for this wrap dress I'm going to be coming down by 6 inches from the top line, like so. I'll just come down 6 inches, and I'm going to be connecting that 6 inches mark from the shoulder, like so, in a slanted manner. So you just connect from the shoulder, passing through the 6-inch mark, and then connecting to the extension you have at the waistline, like so. So the next thing that I'm going to be doing is moving over to the side seam, and then from the side seam I'm going to be coming out 1 inch, like so. I'll go ahead and mark that. So I did that because I wanted to subtract the 1 inch of sewing allowance at the side seam before I went ahead to manipulate this pattern. So now I'm going to be using the hip line right there as the reference for the shape of this gown that I want, this wrap dress that I want to achieve. So I'll be using that. You can come lower than your hip line or higher a little bit, depends on the shape you're working with and how you want your wrap dress to look. So from this hip line right there, I'm just going to connect in a curved manner to the hem line, like so. The point that I marked at the hem area, then from that point again I'm going to be curving it towards the waistline where the belt is going to be sitting. I hope you understand. Just watch what I'm doing, you get it. So just like this, you just use your hand, free hand, or whichever one you want to use to connect this and draw the shape of your wrap dress. Now the lower part is where you're going to be attaching your ruffles. This curved part of the gown, you just attach your ruffles up until where you get to the belt opening. Now that I'm satisfied with what I have here, I'm just going to fold this paper back so I can cut on fabric. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the back neckline. Remember I said I'm using this paper to cut both front and back. So now I'm just going to be placing the back pattern on the fabric, like so. I'm using a soft crepe, by the way. So I'll just go ahead and add the sewing allowances to the necessary parts. So I'll be adding half an inch to the hemline to join to the ruffles. I'll be adding half an inch to the armhole, to the shoulder, and also the neckline. So the side seam allowance has already been added to the pattern, so there's no need. So I'll just go ahead and cut this out. So I'll just quickly use my notcher to notch the waistline, or to pinch in the waistline demarcation on my fabric, like so. So I'll just fold the back piece like so and then put it away for now so we can concentrate on the front pattern. So what I'm going to do now is to use my marker to further highlight this drawn shape on this pattern. So basically just redrawing the slanted line and also the curved line for better visibility. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So that is the opening for the belt, the 2 inches that we marked on the waistline. So I'll just use my hand now with the marker to draw this curved shape like so. So after I was done doing that, I'll just go ahead and cut this pattern out. So I'm just going to be using this pattern to cut on folded fabric so we can cut 2 sides of the front dress. Now I've gone ahead to place the pattern on the folded fabric because I'll be using this to cut 2 pieces for the front. Now I also went ahead to add half an inch sewing allowance to the shoulder, to the armhole. I won't be adding to the side seam because we already did that on the pattern. Now for the front side that I'm indicating here, I'm going to be adding half an inch to join to the ruffles and also half an inch to close up the neckline. So I'll just go ahead now and cut this fabric. Now after going ahead to cut this out, I'm going to be using my notcher to indicate the 2 inches that we have for the belt opening in the front. So I'll just notch that on the 2 separate pieces for the front. So I'll just open up the 2 pieces for the front so you guys can see how it looks. So this is it. It's time to join the shoulders, so I'll be bringing the back piece like this, and then I'll be placing the 2 pieces of the front on top of it, right sides facing each other, just like I'm doing, making sure that everything is aligned together. I'll place the other part of the front on top of it like this. So I'll be using half an inch allowance that I left at the shoulder to join the front and back shoulders together. So I'll just go ahead and do that on my sewing machine, and I'll be right back. Now that we've joined the shoulders together, it's time to join the side seams of this dress. But before we do that, we have to determine where or the side that we want our belt opening to be, because we need to have an opening where we can pass the belt across. So I decided to have my opening at the right hand side. So I'm going to be indicating 2 inches on the waistline where I'm going to be passing my belt. So I'm going to be sewing every other thing at the side seam except these 2 inches where I'm going to leave it open for the belt to pass through. I hope you understand. So I'm just going to be sewing every other thing up onto the hem line, but I'm going to leave 2 inches open for the belt, and I will go ahead and also join the other side of the dress where we are not going to be having any opening. So you just join that from the armhole straight to the hem line. I hope you understand. So after joining the side seam, this is what I have. I already turned the gown inside out, so we have the right size facing us. You can see that the opening is at my right hand side, as you can see, the 2 inch for my belt. So the next thing that I want to do now is to cover up the neckline of this gown. So I'm going to be using my bias strip to cover up the neckline, because I already notched the belt opening, so that will give me an indication of where my neckline is starting and ending. So it will be very easy for me to know that, and I won't get confused. So I'll just use my bias strip to start sewing from the beginning of the notch towards the other side of this dress, which will serve as the end of the neckline. So I'll just go over to the machine now and do that. After covering the neckline with the bias strip, this is what I have. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my notcher to notch the bias strip along the neckline all the way through. That way the neckline is going to stay relaxed and smooth and flat when you iron it and when you sew it down. I'm still going to top stitch, but before I top stitch this bias strip, I'm going to just go ahead and notch just the way you see me doing. I'll notch all the way from the beginning to the end of the neckline. So what I'm going to do next now is to go to the sewing machine and top stitch on top of this bias strip, as you see me doing, so it can lay flat and nice on the dress. So I'll just go ahead and do that. After I top stitched on the bias strip, I also went ahead to iron it so it can lay nice and flat. You can see the 2 inches opening for the belt below the neckline. So now we are going to measure what we have left that we are going to be attaching our ruffles to. So I'm going to be excluding the belt opening. So you start below the belt opening where you are measuring the remaining fabric for your ruffles. So you exclude the 2 inches for the belt opening, then you continue your measurement from the front like so all the way to the back, and then you continue your measurement to the other side of the wrap dress so we can get the circumference that we need for our ruffles. So at the end of the day, when I finished measuring, I had about 80 inches for the circumference of this whole outfit. So I multiplied the 80 inches by 3, so that gave me 240 inches. So I'm going to be gathering 240 inches of fabric round to attach to this lower part of this dress to form our ruffles, and the length of this ruffle is going to be 7 inches. That's what I want to add, so I'll just go ahead and cut my fabric to achieve that. So I'm going to be joining these 3 separate pieces together to achieve my 240 inches of fabric that we need. So I'm going to be joining them together like so. Then I added 1.5 inches to the 7 inches, half an inch to join to the actual fabric, and then 1 inch to fold the hemline of the ruffles. So I'll just go ahead and gather this into the actual circumference that we need for the lower part of this dress. So now that I've gathered the fabric into ruffles, it's time to attach to the lower part of the dress. So now I'm just going to go ahead and do that, making sure that I do not attach from the belt opening, but below the belt opening is where I'm attaching these ruffles from. So guys, take note of that. Now after attaching our ruffles to the dress, this is what it's looking like. You can see how beautiful and lovely it's coming out to be. So now I'm just going to show you guys the opening, the belt opening. You can see that we did not attach the ruffles to the belt opening, so you can see it right there. So we are going to be attaching our belt there later on. That was why I said when you want to attach your ruffles, you attach from below the belt opening so we can have space to put in our belt later. The next thing I'll be doing is to overlock the rough edges on this dress. If you don't have an overlocking machine, you can just use your bias strip to cover up the rough edges. So I'll be right back after doing that. So like I said, I went ahead to overlock the rough edges, especially the joining parts. You can see now, like I said, if you do not have an overlocking machine, you can just use your bias strip to do that. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to draft the sleeves for this dress. I'm not going to be cutting directly on fabric. I'm just going to draft on paper first before I transfer to the fabric. Now the armhole that I'm working with is 19 inches, so I'm going to be putting that in mind when I'm drafting this on paper. So let's just get right into this sleeve pattern. So I have my pattern paper folded in two here. As you can see, the length of this sleeve is going to be 27 inches, and I'm going to be coming down about 16 inches for my elbow length, and I'll be coming down 5 inches for my cap height length, like so. I'll just mark that across, and then I'll be using my marker and ruler to kind of further highlight this. As you can see, I will also be marking this line on the elbow as well. Now on the cap height line, I'm going to be placing the round measurement of my arm divided by 2 plus 1 inch of ease. I'll be placing it on this line, and my round arm measurement is 14 divided by 2, which gives me 7, plus 1 will give me 8 inches. So the midpoint of 8 inches is going to be 4 inches. So I'm marking the 4 inches right there on that line. Now I'm going to be transferring that same 4 inches on the top line as well, like so, and then I'll be connecting these 2 points together as you see me doing. Now I'm just going to be placing the 8 inches right there, as you can see. Now I'll move over to my elbow and place half of my elbow measurement, which is 12 inches divided by 2 gives me 6. So I'm placing that there, and I'll also be placing half of my curve measurement on the curve or the wrist, which is 4.5 inches. I divided 9 inches to get that. Now from that point right there on the 4-inch mark, I'm going to be coming down by 6 centimeters. So I'll be using that 6 centimeters mark as a reference to draw my armhole curve, like so, making sure that curve passes through the 6 centimeters and then ends on the 8 inches mark that I used for my round arm. After I was done doing that, I'll just use my marker like so to redraw the curved line, as you can see now, and then I'll go ahead to add 1 inch of sewing allowance to that round arm part right there before I connect to my elbow line. I'm not going to be adding any extra inches to the elbow line for now. So from the elbow line, I'll just connect to the curve like so with my pencil. So I want to convert this straight sleeve pattern to a trumpet sleeve, or like an A-shaped sleeve. So I'm going to be adding more width to the curve. So I'm going to be coming out by about 3.5 inches from the curve like this. You can do 4 inches or 5 inches depending on how wide you want this to be, the curve area. So now on the elbow, I'm going to be going up by about 1.5 inches or 1 inch. You can just stay on the elbow line, totally depends on you. Now from that point, I'm just going to connect straight down to the new width at the curve like so. I'll connect with my pencil, as you can see. So now I've converted that to a trumpet sleeve. So I'm going to be coming up by half an inch from that edge just to give it a kind of a curved look. I don't want it to be straight at the curve area. So from that half an inch that I came up by, I'll just use my curved part of the ruler to connect it back to the center line of the sleeve like so. So I'll just go ahead and use my marker to connect from the elbow to the underarm like so, and then from the elbow to the curve, the new extension we have at the wrist area, and I'll make sure I blend that part so we don't have sharp edges. Then I'll go ahead and connect the curved part of the M line like so. Now I'll just go ahead and cut this pattern out. So for the sleeve pattern, I'll be adding about half an inch to the elbow to join, and then I'll be adding half an inch at the top part to join to the outfit, and then I'll be adding 1 inch of allowance to fold the hemline of the sleeve. So now I'm just going to be placing the pattern on fabric, and then I'll go ahead and cut this. And you can see that I left half an inch allowance at the top part of the sleeve that I'll be using to join to the dress. I also added 1 inch of allowance to the hemline to fold it in. Also, you can go ahead to add about 1/4 of an inch to half an inch to the side of the sleeve to join, but it really doesn't matter because this is not a fitted sleeve, so you can still get away with it. So I'll be using this to cut the second sleeve before joining to the dress. So after joining the sleeves to the dress, this is what I have. So the next thing that I'll be doing is to cut the strips that I'm going to be using for the belt. So I went ahead to cut two strips of about 55 inches each, and the width is 4.5 inches in width. So I'll be folding it over, and then I'll be joining at the sides with 1/4 of an inch to secure it, so that by the time I turn it inside out, the width of these strips is going to be 2 inches, which is the exact width that we need for our belt. So I'll just go ahead and do that. So these are the two strips that we're going to be using for the belt. I already went ahead to use my iron to press them flat, as you can see. Now you'll be taking one end of one belt and you secure it to one end of one side of the opening at the front, the 2 inches opening that we left out from the beginning of this tutorial. I hope you understand. So that part is where you're going to be inserting the belt. So you just fix it in, and then you top stitch it on top of one end of the belt. Then you secure the other hand as well by top stitching and closing up the rough edges. I will also repeat the same process for the other side of this front dress by securing in the 2 inches space into the strap, and then I'll top stitch on top of it. So I'll just go ahead and do that. So after fixing our belts, this is what we have. You just pass it through the right hand side where I have the opening, so the belt is going to come out from that opening, and then you pass the other one around your waist before you tie it at the front. So easy. You can see how beautiful this turned out to be. So on this note, guys, we've come to the end of today's tutorial. If you found my video helpful, please give me a giant thumbs up, and also share this video to your friends. And also don't forget to leave a comment, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also don't forget to turn on your notification bell to get notified whenever I upload new videos. So till I see you in my next one, guys, bye.